This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll feel and experience both Pasadena and Los Feliz, featuring an interview with incredible Leslie Stevens.
They are different. And I would say that Pasadena has this kind of classic or sort of window to the early part of the 20th century. And it really feels, from the architecture that's all the way from all the bungalows and houses that have all these mission details or some Victorian details or some combinations. The houses don't look like cookie cutters, but they all have this kind of, or most of them have this like stylistic details that have craftsman pieces and qualities. So it captures like a window to a time period. And then the other components of like the way downtown is and the way it comes up to the mountains. So it kind of feels like it's like holding that, early mid-century in its hand. And Los Feliz, I just love so much. It's so leafy and funky and hilly. And there's the Griffith Park is right there. And it's really walkable, but it has kind of really windy little streets. But I love like Vermont or Hillhurst, or even walking through, like I live close to there's a high school that has this beautiful vintage kind of architecture, very early 20th century. And there's a lot of wild creatures in Los Feliz. So that also makes you feel kind of like wild and funky, which I love.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready for the journey to Pasadena and Los Feliz? Imagine stepping into Pasadena on a sunny day. The air thick with the scent of orange blossoms and pine. Pasadena isn't just a city. It feels like an invitation to pause, breathe, and enjoy the world around you. Strolling down the tree-lined streets, you see craftsman-style homes proudly standing with their wooden beams and wide, inviting porches. These houses aren't flashy, but they radiate a quiet confidence, as if they've been keeping secrets of generations past. Pasadena began as a winter hideaway for wealthy Midwesterners drawn by the promise of California's sunshine and fresh air. They came to escape the cold, bringing their refined tastes and love of nature with them, and Pasadena blossomed into a community of elegant, nature-inspired homes that reflected the calm they sought. Architects like Charles and Henry Green crafted these homes with a deep respect for the natural world. Walking by the Gamble House, one of their masterpieces, you can't help but feel that the house is part of the earth itself. Its rich wooden accents and stone foundations blending seamlessly into the landscape. This is what Pasadena is all about: elegance and harmony. The city holds a charm that feels both timeless and enduring, steeped in traditions yet vibrant with art and culture. The Rose Parade sweeps through each year, a bright reminder of Pasadena's roots, with families setting up chairs on the sidewalks days before to catch the best view of the flower-covered floats. There is a strong sense of community, of history and pride, a feeling that you belong to something that's been here long before you arrived and will continue long after. Then there is Los Feliz, a neighborhood as different from Pasadena as Hollywood is from the Midwest. Los Feliz has its own kind of magic, a heartbeat that seems to thrum with the dreams of artists, actors, and visionaries. Tucked beside the rolling hills of Griffith Park, it's a place where Spanish colonial villas brush shoulders with sleek mid-century homes designed by legends like Richard Neutra. Los Feliz grew up alongside Hollywood itself, so there is an undeniable glamour woven into its fabric. Walking through Los Feliz, you can almost feel the echo of old Hollywood, of stars who called this neighborhood home, and of the filmmakers who captured its charm on screen. Unlike Pasadena's grounded beauty, Los Feliz has an eclectic charm, a slightly rebellious spirit. In the 1920s, architects like Wallace Neff embraced the romance of Spanish Revival architecture, dotting the neighborhood with terracotta roofs, arched doorways, and blooming bougainvillea. But Los Feliz is also home to futuristic structures like Frank Lloyd Wright's Annie's House, a bold, Mayan-inspired residence that almost feels like it's from another world. This is the magic of Los Feliz. It's as if the neighborhood can't be pinned down to any one identity. There's always a sense of discovery here, whether it's a tucked-away jazz bar, a vintage theater, or a hidden stairway winding up to the hills. While Pasadena holds onto a timeless, refined identity, Los Feliz reveals in its diversity and creative spirit. The vibe of Los Feliz is one of laid-back charm, a place where artists can be themselves, surrounded by like-minded souls who celebrate the unconventional. On weekend mornings, locals flock to cozy coffee shops or the Los Feliz Theater, perhaps for an indie film screening or an open mic night. Griffith Park, with its sweeping views of the city and its trails up to the iconic Griffith Observatory, is a community gathering place where you'll see everyone from hikers to stargazers, each drawn to Los Feliz' bohemian warmth. Pasadena's streets are lined with mature trees and well-preserved neighborhoods, including the Orange Grove Boulevard area, once known as Millionaire's Row, which underscores the city's historic affluence. Yet, Pasadena has evolved into a hub of art, education, and science as well. It's home to the California Institute of Technology and the Norton Simon Museum, lending an intellectual and artistic edge. Both Pasadena and Los Feliz began with ties to LA's expansion and attraction of wealthy newcomers, but they grew in different ways. These two neighborhoods illustrate the distinct personalities within LA's vast sprawl. Pasadena holds onto its sophisticated, serene, and community-focused character, while Los Feliz thrives on its creative energy and free-spirited vibe. The architectural diversity and historic character in both areas make them not just neighborhoods, but reflections of the LA story itself, one that embraces traditions, innovation, and an endless search for identity. And here we are, Welcome to the world of Pasadena and Los Feliz. I'm so delighted to have Leslie Stevens here with me. Leslie Stevens, of Scots-Irish and Norwegian descent, grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her mother, an English teacher passionate about women's rights, and her father, a left-handed baseball pitcher and businessman, instilled in her a love for learning and tenacity. An athlete from an early age, Leslie competed in junior Olympic gymnastics until age 11, when her family moved and she shifted her focus to dance, acting, and choir. Leslie made her Broadway debut at 17 as the ingénue lead in Cage Aux Folles, and soon after joined NBC's Search for Tomorrow as a contract player. She has since built a multifaceted career in theater, film, and dance, originating roles on Broadway, including Anne in La Cage aux Folles, and performing alongside Julie Andrews in Victor Victoria. Her passion extends to writing and education. She collaborates with LA Opera's education department, creating original librettos for young audiences. In addition to her onstage work, Leslie has appeared with Hubbard Street Dance Chicago and the Dayton Ballet, and she has performed in notable productions like An American in Paris, Grumpy Old Man, Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike, and Chicago. Off stage, Leslie finds joy in poetry, pie, and the occasional hamster. She lives with immense gratitude for her husband, Forrest, and continues to embrace new projects and roles with heartfelt dedication. Leslie will share with us her journey and what it feels like to live both in Pasadena and Los Feliz. Hello, Leslie.
Hello, Maria. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I am well. I am enjoying autumn.
Yes, it's a beautiful time of the year. And thank you for finding the time for our conversation today.
I'm delighted to speak with you. So I'm glad we could find a window together. It's great.
Yes, it's great. So, Leslie, you live both in Pasadena and Los Feliz, and these are two absolutely beautiful areas with very unique vibes.
Yeah.
How would you describe the energy and atmosphere of these neighborhoods?
Well, they are different. And I would say that Pasadena has this kind of classic or sort of window to the early part of the 20th century. And it really feels, I mean, from the architecture that's all the way from all the bungalows and houses that have all these mission details or some Victorian details or some combinations. The houses don't look like cookie cutters, but they all have this kind of, or most of them have this like stylistic details that have craftsman pieces and qualities. So it captures like a window to a time period. And then the other components of like the way downtown is and the way it comes up to the mountains. So it kind of feels like it's like holding that, early mid-century in its hand. And Los Feliz, I just love so much. It's so leafy and funky and hilly. And there's the Griffith Park is right there. And it's really walkable, but it has kind of really windy little streets. But I love like Vermont or Hillhurst, or even walking through, like I live close to there's a high school that has this beautiful vintage kind of architecture, very early 20th century. And there's a lot of wild creatures in Los Feliz. So that also makes me feel kind of like wild and funky, which I love. It feels very leafy and very, do you know the artist Maxfield Parrish?
Yes.
Sometimes I really feel that when I'm there, like at dusk or something, because the way the shape of the trees go. And I love that area, but those definitely are two of my favorite parts of LA.
Yes, and they're mine too. So what a coincidence. And so how do these differences in the areas influence your day-to-day life and creative process when you're spending time in each? Do you somehow maybe feel a shift in your artistic mindset depending on where you are?
It's interesting because I do a lot of like sort of generating my own work. I mean, I take classes or study things, but I also do some like creative work of creating a character or creating choreography or creating material for classes that I teach. And I do feel like the different spaces kind of lend themselves, which is interesting. The Pasadena experience is newer. That's really just since this past spring. So I've just gotten a little freestanding, what would you call it? Like it would have been a garage, but it's a little studio now. And so that just got to be a place where I could work by the middle of the summer. So I'm sort of getting used to what works in that space. And it actually seems like the Pasadena space is a little more like internal and meditative, and the Los Feliz space is more like let's do a self-tape outside and let's get, and let's do like some more energized choreography. I'm not trying to set it up that way, but since you ask that, that's funny. I'm just starting to notice that they have kind of a different call. My favorite thing to do in the Pasadena space is to do like late night yoga reflection. And I feel so honored if I get to do it, that I can just go into a not glamorous, but wonderful little space. And, there's a moon over there and there's a possum, outside the door or something. And I can just enjoy the kind of desert mountain feeling. Since I guess you're really attuned to the kind of qualities that different areas have.
And they inspire you in different ways. Very interesting how you said that Pasadena is more internal and meditative. Almost like you calm down and go inside of yourself. And then Los Feliz is about stepping outside, both literally and figuratively. Wow. Very interesting. So what are maybe some of your favorite spots in these neighborhoods, places where you find, more inspiration, maybe a bit of adventure? So where would you go for that?
That's interesting. Well, in Los Feliz, someone left, this is also part of the fun of living in LA, I guess, but someone left these fancy, beautiful outdoor chairs to be picked up by the dumpster, by the trash cans. And they were beautiful. It's just the cushions were, not perfect anymore. They were tired and had little tears in them. So I took one of these chairs and I put it underneath a jacaranda tree at the top of the driveway. And it's like a hill. And I love to sit in that tree because the squirrels go up there, and in the bright time of the year, the jacaranda purple blossoms fall all over. But you can also see just kind of across the way the hills are, you can see across people's yards kind of into the distance. And so it's not like a destination, but I love sitting there to read or reflect. If I'm going to go somewhere, I like to take a 15-minute walk and there's a restaurant called Little Dom's.
Oh, yes.
And right across the street is I'm going to be terrible. I should know that it's just like a coffee and croissant place. And so if I'm going to take a walk, those are my two favorite spots to go to.
This is nice. Those are very lovely places. And then also along Hillhurst, you probably can explore for more restaurants and cafes. It's just such a vibrant street in Los Feliz.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I get a chance, if someone says, oh, let's meet, where would you like to meet? I always kind of say, how do you feel about Los Feliz? Oh, could we because that's my favorite thing, is to be able to walk somewhere to meet someone,
Yes.
It just feels so nice to be able to be full of appreciation for the environment and the world when you get somewhere, and not be like, grr, I couldn't park, or, whatever those silly frustrations that are just part of the urban thing. I love when we get to avoid those, and just get to be people enjoying the other gifts of the environment.
Right. And what about Pasadena? Any favorite places there?
Well, it's still newer to me, but there is a park and a branch of the library about 2 blocks away, and it's like part of a block and it has a park space, and it also has like a tennis court, but one of them is turned into a skateboard park, which I don't do that. I've really liked to go and sit there because on some mornings I've seen some young people doing skateboard tricks on one side, and on the other side there were some seniors doing Tai Chi, and I just thought that was the bomb to look at those things together.
Yes.
I'm much closer to the Tai Chi group, but for now I'm just like, I felt like honored to be able to witness them both,
Wow. Wow, what a picture. Wow, that's very interesting. Like a snapshot of life.
Yes, I don't know if I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I think maybe it's just how it timed out, but it felt so impactful to take that in, that it was just happening like that.
Yes. And you being so artistic and creative, that's why you noticed that, because probably that was some sort of inspiration for you in a way.
Absolutely. Like the opportunity to reflect on the experience of being here, different times of life, the body the cells, whatever, they want to commune in different ways. Like I have no desire to try to do flips on concrete with a skateboard, zero. But seeing like how much energy, how much joy they're getting out of it, and how much they're enjoying their resilience to like wipe out and get up and do it again.
Yes.
I think like, well, that's a fantastic part of humanity right there. And then senior people like knowing where gravity is and being cool with that, not needing to be reminded, but like dancing with it, like really mindfully I just thought it was gorgeous.
It is very, very beautiful.
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yes, you absolutely did. So you've had such a diverse and vibrant career, from acting on iconic shows like The Young and The Restless to your own work with LA Opera. So what moments stand out to you as pivotal in shaping the artist that you are today?
I think they're kind of different categories of experience, and I won't drag this out, but because I've been doing this for so long, and I led with a dance skill. So dancers that have certain skills and lines, and if it lines up with what they look like and if the right place and the right time, you can start working, or I got to start working at a high professional level really early. And what that gave me was the tremendous gift being educated by the people around me, just by observing the really experienced actors or dancers that I was around. So there are some moments of observing some incredible people in action that had a great impact, like watching George Hearn, the moment before he would step onto the Broadway stage to sing the anthem, I Am What I Am, in Cage Aux Folles. For the first, few months, we didn't know how an audience would respond to that. It was a long time ago before homosexual human beings were commonly portrayed in, stories or film or media as human beings, not as the butt of a joke or something to be feared. And so it was new terrain, certainly in that atmosphere. But to watch him, and he's so gracious to me, like a total newbie teenager, and to watch him like stay lighthearted on purpose and playful in the wings before he had to go, and then immediately make this change to be centered in what he was doing, I found so fascinating. I never got tired of watching him choose that way to like manage himself with ease, but was so intentional. So like that's, and there's a bunch of stories like that of being able to witness people who were so skilled and so wise without saying it, just getting to see them. And I can say like for myself, as the joy of being part of an ensemble certainly was dance company Hubbard Street, because we were all young people together, but it was a small group and we had such trust in each other and so much, we just worked our butts off together, and so when anyone had a solo or would succeed, there was such investment in each other, and that kind of community feeling, I treasure those memories. There are some other performances where I got a chance to challenge myself, and if I was happy about being brave enough to allow things to happen when I individually was the focal point, I'm grateful for those too, because you come away with this tremendous, I got to play a role, Sweet Charity, in a musical and a couple of different times. And that to have the courage to put yourself out there and then get out of your own way, it's a kind of connection that's really profound, and it is not ego-ish. It's really like connecting to everybody in the audience through really connecting to a character that's really hooked into like a piece of humanity that people can recognize and laugh with or laugh at and cry with. And like to be the person that's sort of the antenna that, like pulls that in and shares it out feels so amazing. And I'm so grateful for those experiences. So, I mean, I guess, that's what I would say, that those capture the community ones, the student ones, and the chance to be the like communicator or having more responsibility also really make an impact. It kind of changed you a little bit from having those experiences.
With your deep roots in both acting and dance, how do you feel that these two forms of art complement each other in your career? Are there maybe certain roles or performances that allowed you to merge these passions?
Absolutely. And Sweet Charity was one, because it's the play itself. The script is written by Neil Simon, who is a master of the human story and a kind of vaudevillian mid-century humor at the same time. So that was something specifically where that character is written to be expressed through a lot of dance. But I also find it in other kind of roles where the character isn't necessarily a dancer, but there was a a play. There's a play called Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike, which is a riff off of a Chekhov, and that the character I played is sort of a grandiose, self-involved actress who's kind of on the downside of her career. And so getting to invest in like those kind of like that kind of posturing and the sort of the very self-aware, very deliberate movements that are as if one is being photographed at all times. Really fun to build in there to the life of the person. And I think that would have been, I think that would have been so much harder if I didn't have that kind of program already in my computer, you know?
Yes. Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really fun thing to try to include the movement. How does this person move in the world based on, you know, what they value or what they've experienced? So that's fun.
Yes, yes, it is so true now that I'm thinking about it, that, you know, your character and the way you move, the way you show up in the world is really, you know, very, very descriptive of who you are.
Yes, and it can be really fun when you can belie your deeper sensibilities or needs, even if that's not at all what you're saying.
Mhm.
Like, so the conflict of being a human being can certainly be coming through your body also. That's been part of the fun of I'm a student of the human, like how humans move too. I don't know if you like to do this, but as a young person or as a dancer in my very early adulthood, if we were on tour or something, I'd watch in the airport, and I just loved watching people. I hope I wasn't creeping them out, but love to see, because like how people stand even in line, you're like, oh my goodness, like we reveal ourselves all the time, even though we don't mean to, you know?
Yes, yes. When we think nobody's watching, but Leslie's always watching.
I know, that's why I'm glad they didn't like call security. I mean, staring at people. But that, like, I became more and more fascinated about how we see the world dictates how we inhabit our structure, and our structure can change utterly when we are, you know, grabbed by a different idea or a different conversation. You know, people, you know, when what they look like, you know, the moment they've had they realize they're in love is totally different on what they look like and how they stand when they are in grief, or when you're trying to park and somebody took your spot. I mean, there's like completely different ways to inhabit the body, and it's the same body and it's even the same, you know, person, but we are far more malleable and plastic. And so I think that's part of the delightful part of also acting and performance and having a movement life, is being aware of that consciously, trying to make choices about that, like how I want to live my regular life. But then that's a tool to also storytell with.
Just literally brought me to my next question to you.
Oh, good. Okay.
As someone who's been a librettist for a lay opera, storytelling must really hold deep significance for you, and it's pretty obvious from everything you have shared so far. So how do you approach building a character, whether it's on stage or screen?
I think as a younger artist, I was relying a lot on my instinctual sense, but as I've matured and I have had the blessing of some extremely gifted and wise coaches and teachers, and one in particular, which I don't know if I am allowed to say people's names, but this approach that I prefer to use now, and it's not a technique, it's not a right or wrong, but it's to really prioritize using one's imagination to have some of the experiences that the character has had, and to realize that in this, whatever the story is, in this moment, if I'm going to pick up that page and say, okay, I'm going to make this story my story, then there's no longer a she. There's no, oh, she, this character in the story. That's a piece of paper. But as soon as I want to take it on, then it's me sitting here right now. But the difference is I don't want to shrink that person that's living through the writer into my experiences. I want to expand myself into this person's experiences.
Wow.
And that, I think that's like a tremendous thing to include in your life, so that it's not, and there's nothing wrong with great entertainers who have a charming personality and people want to see that personality in stories. I mean, that's a delightful thing. I think that's just a different thing. This about like developing or practicing having the imagination to go visit or go explore other people's worlds. I play a lot of, at this age, a lot of moms, or what I call moms with problems, you know, like, so not moms with cookies and like having a pool party. Like, I guess it's because I'm a little angular looking or something, but I'm always like playing mom that's like, ooh, you know, something's something's not right there. But I don't have any children. So all of these children are imaginary, but I do a grave disservice to anybody who is a mom that it's not a fleeting thought. Your children have had a huge impact on your life. So the opportunity to really sit with, loving a creature outside of yourself and then having to let them expand without you, and then even like bearing their resentment or disregard, or the confusion as you grow into different people. Like I really like this. It's called The Imagined Life. And her name is Diana Castle, and she's a brilliant teacher of the human experience, and through text and through acting. But I mean, it's so much more than an acting class. It really has expanded my awareness. And I would say I like to work that way. And I also, for writing, you asked about being a librettist, I got turned on to Joseph Campbell when I was in my 20s. Mm-hmm. And he is a great professor of world mythologies. He wrote some amazing books that allow you to see like the stories of the Inuit people in Alaska have images that are very similar to classic Japanese mythology, that are also very similar to mythology stories in Mexico, and ones in Germany, and ones in India. And it's an incredible thing that really formed my desire to look at kind of how the archetypal parts of stories aren't cartoons. They're just like deep places in the human psyche that we continue to revisit in different, slightly different stories, but those deep kind of archetypes and challenges of things that are the tussles, between a hoped for outcome and a familiar past. Those things are universal. And that's really the grounding I come from for storytelling. And I just think I'll make a short story. So it really dawned on me. I went to visit a friend of mine who's singing on a cruise ship. So I got to be a guest, hanging. So it wasn't very expensive, and what a thrill. So I was touring around, and I got to go take a trip it was in Greece, and you could get off the boat and go on a tour to learn about the Temple of Zeus. And they were talking about this. But as we were standing there waiting for the tour guide, it was just a bunch of people waiting around in this field with a bunch of rocks, that looked kind of like marble. And then as this tour guide started to speak, she said, no, don't touch that. That's part of the grand pillars of the Temple of Zeus. And so we all went, oh, sorry, oh my goodness. As we're standing there in a field, we're still standing in a field with this lady with a yellow umbrella. She's telling us the story, and you watch everybody's brains seeing the Temple of Zeus and what this means and what went on here and why the ground is sacred and all this. So the whole way back on the bus, it's like, oh my gosh, the Temple of Zeus, the Temple of Zeus. We got back on the boat, and everybody is talking about the tour they went on, or they're watching a movie, or they're reading a book, or they're playing bridge and they're talking about what they did. And I realized human beings have to have stories. We have to have them. And I guess I just never saw it that way, like as part of our survival. I think we're really confused if we don't have a story to know who we are or where we are, where do we fit, how much mystery can we allow? Let's put it in that story. That's enough. What do I do with my grief? Oh, here's a story. The things that we experience, we are actively bouncing it off of the stories with each other and then the stories we tell ourselves. So this is kind of, I don't know that other creatures do that. I can't say they don't, but I don't know that they do. But we surely do as part of our survival. And I'm endlessly fascinated by it. I don't pretend to have all the answers about it, but I feel like that's kind of where my spirituality lives, is in there. And with the little, possums and little critters that live in the backyard.
Yes, very true. And you know what, the way you were saying that you need to expand yourself in order to write a story. But I think to really get into a story, like when you're listening it, you need to expand yourself as well. And the way you were just talking about it made me think that maybe this story is windows for us as human beings, for our evolution, and knowing that, even though we're all stuck up on our identities the way we are, but when we listen to the stories, it kind of expands us to the point of like beyond who we are. And we understand that somewhere out there in this grand field of consciousness, we're all connected, and there is no you and I, and there is just we.
Absolutely. That was beautifully put, Maria.
You inspired me.
And that's why I can be a grown-up senior lady and still be really moved to study these things, to be, because it doesn't then become like, oh, I am less than, I'm a student. It's no, I am open because I'm requesting to be expanded, you know?
Yes, yes. We are students until we graduate and transition into non-being.
Yeah. So I hope on the other side, I can be some sort of useful drop of water somewhere.
For sure, for sure. And my last question to you, Leslie, do you have any advice for aspiring performers who want to explore multiple disciplines like you have?
Well, the short bumper sticker answer is you can do everything, just not at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a lot of interests, you may have to like choose in time when you're focusing on something, but it doesn't mean you can't do the other things as well. But try to give yourself the grace that you may have to say, I'm going to get to that more later. Or we can all juggle a few balls, but just because you're not juggling that one right now, it doesn't mean you can't later.
Mm-hmm.
I would just encourage any young person. I'm here with a college of young people here, and I teach also in a college in Los Angeles. So I'm around 18 to 23-year-olds a lot. And there's not a monolith at all, but I do encourage young people to, I guess it would be like two aspects of the same thing, which is to like prioritize the relationship with yourself, not meaning that you're walled off from others, but that nobody else is your brain or your body in the control center of the choices you make or how you frame things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's really an inside job. If the inside of your being feels like hostile or feels like supportive. So sometimes we do a little short, like kind of meditation, and I ask them to just choose one short phrase that's in support of your own work, a phrase that you won't go, ugh, I don't think that, but something genuinely, don't tell anybody, just privately, because you are the one generating the internal like weather.
Mm-hmm.
You get to dictate whether that holds space for a lot of possibility and encouraging yourself to be brave as you learn. And you'll always be learning. So I just encourage to prioritize a relationship internally, because that's where you're going to go for your confidence and your courage. And then you can also choose people to hang with that, whether you talk about it or not, that sort of support that energy.
Yes.
The game of compare and despair and, oh my God, you're amazing. All that kind of, it's normal human, but it doesn't really work well. It doesn't create community. It doesn't support people to like step out and to expand themselves, because that's the joy of it. And so that's just what I really encourage them. So they can be not so dependent upon the external. I am chosen this time and I'm not that time, or this person expressed that they liked what I did, but that person didn't say anything. It can really be so painful if one hasn't found kind of a central space to enjoy doing your own work that isn't so impacted by those external, what we perceive as value judgments, you know.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much for your time, for your encouragement, for your inspiration, and, for expanding yourself for all of us. Because when one person does this internal work, as you teach your students, and you obviously have done a lot of it, it truly affects everybody else around them, whether you know them personally or whether you just, heard them speaking on a podcast. So thank you for having done all of this work, and thank you for this inspiration to others, to so many others.
It is just a joy to talk to you, Maria. And I love how we met, where I just sort of
I know
up on your vibe in a line for theater tickets and went, I think there are only a few tickets left. I think you should go. I think you should have them. And it was just beautiful to pick up on your, without even, painting anything onto you per se, but I just felt it. And what a treat that we've stayed connected.
Yes. It is very special. And I treasure very deeply in my heart that, a meeting in a line for theater tickets. And because of you, I was able to see with my husband this brilliant play, a million of brilliant things. So thank you so much, Leslie. And your generosity is just beyond belief.
Well, what a treat. So I hope we stay in touch. And thank you so much, Maria, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie. Until next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for tuning in to Feel and Experience Pasadena and Los Feliz with my special guest, Leslie Stevens. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, Please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California and check out my website www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It's an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we'll journey into the heart of Topanga, a place with its own unique spirit that feels like a world away from the city. Nestled in the mountains, Topanga is an escape into nature, creativity, and a way of life that thrives on simplicity and soulfulness. I can't wait to share the magic of Topanga with you.
In the Mood for California. Feel the soul of Old Hollywood.